Now, when the topic turns to the Carter household, the Knowles dynasty, and this fresh federal showdown circling Sean Carter, listen, if you're prepared to witness exactly how the upcoming Jane Doe proceeding against the man they call Hav is shaping up to be one of the most calculated, choreographed, and quietly rigged spectacles the entertainment world has ever rolled out in front of our eyeballs, well, fasten yourself in tight, because what's been quietly assembled inside that Manhattan courthouse should disturb every single soul that thinks they understand how power moves in this country. And listen, before we wade any deeper into the swamp, please tap that thumbs up button, click subscribe, and ring the bell on the way down. And honestly, smash that like button hard, because the Rock Nation defenders, the Beehive enforcers, and the loyalists who polish that empire morning, noon, and midnight are absolutely going to lose their composure once they see what's been stitched together here. So back me up, hit that like, because this one is going to need every ounce of momentum we can pump into it. Now, the second I tell you that this Tony Buzbee versus the Carter Empire collision is being herded into a chamber that's been prearranged like a Broadway opening night, I want you to keep one ironclad rule locked behind your forehead at all times. Nothing inside this circle of theirs is accidental. Nothing. Not the dates, not the venues, not the personnel, not the room digits. Everything inside the Carter machine, the entire ecosystem they've constructed since the Brooklyn Projects era, has been engineered down to the punctuation. And there are folks reading this right now thinking, oh, you're stretching, you're reading too deep, you're seeing shadows where there's only daylight. Stick around, because by the time we connect every single dot on this courtroom map, you're going to need somebody to peel you off the ceiling. The breakdown we just received, courtesy of one of the sharpest detectives in my comment community, deserves a standing ovation, because while the rest of the press corps was busy chasing celebrity dinner reservations and shiny photo ops, this researcher decided to crack open the actual court calendar and study who's been quietly slotted onto the bench for this Jane Doe matter. And what surfaced from that simple act of curiosity should send a chill straight through every rib bone you own. The bench officer presiding over this entire Jane Doe filing against the Carter camp is none other than United States District Judge Andrew L. Carter Jr., parked inside the Thurgood Marshall Federal Building at 40 Foley Square in Lower Manhattan, occupying chamber number 444. Repeat that with me one more time. The chamber number is 444. Now, the average bystander hears that and shrugs, because 3 matching digits sound like nothing more than a random clerk assignment. But the moment you've watched the Carter dynasty operate for the past quarter century, the moment you've studied how these elites communicate through patterns, signals, ciphers, and architectural placements, you immediately recognize that 444 is a calling card. It's a signature. It's a wink across the room from the very people who keep insisting nothing strange is happening. And it gets denser, my friends, much denser, because the surname stitched onto that judge's nameplate is Carter. Carter. The identical surname stenciled across every Rock Nation contract, every Reasonable Doubt liner note, every Brooklyn deed, and every billion-dollar press release that's ever crossed your timeline. So now, before a single witness has been sworn in, before opening statements have even been drafted, you've got a federal jurist sharing the same family name as the defendant, planted inside a chamber stamped with the most occult-adjacent numerical sequence in Western symbolism, working inside the precise same federal corridor where the recent Sean Combs proceedings unfolded only months ago. 3 coordinates, 3 perfect alignments, 0 margin for coincidence. And listen, when you start zooming out, the math gets even more grotesque. The number 4, depending on which corner of East Asia you ask, is treated as a digit of death, decay, and dread. Entire skyscrapers across Tokyo, Seoul, and Shanghai skip the 4th floor entirely. Hospitals refuse to assign that digit to patient rooms. Elevator panels jump from 3 straight to 5, as if the missing integer carries a curse. So when the same ruling class that surrounds the Carter brand, the same gatekeepers who curate every Met Gala seating chart and every Super Bowl halftime slot, decides to triple that very digit and slap it onto the courtroom plate for this case, please do not insult my intelligence by suggesting that nobody upstairs noticed. Somebody noticed. Somebody approved it. Somebody signed off. And whoever stamped that paperwork did it with a grin stretching from one ear to the other. Now, here's where the architecture gets even more diabolical. The case file was originally lodged down in Alabama, hundreds of miles south of any Carter zip code, before being mysteriously rerouted into the Southern District of New York, dropping it neatly into the same federal building that just hosted the Combs spectacle. Same hallways, same metal detectors, same elevator banks, same gallery benches. And now, parked behind the gavel, you have a jurist who shares a surname with the accused, a chamber number screaming the most ritual-coded sequence on the books, and a paper trail tracing every appointment, every confirmation, every promotion straight back to the 44th occupant of the Oval Office. Yes, you read that correctly. The presiding judicial officer, Andrew L. Carter Jr., was elevated to that federal seat under the administration of the 44th Commander-in-Chief, Barack Obama. The 44th. 4, 4, 4. The same digit echoing back at us from the West Wing into Foley Square into the courtroom plate. You honestly cannot fabricate writing this airtight. If this was a screenplay, the studio executives would scribble it back marked rejected for being too on the nose. And speaking of Barack and the East Wing era, every longtime follower of this saga remembers that the Carters didn't simply visit the residence during those 8 years. They practically had a guest suite stenciled with their initials. Every glossy magazine spread, every state dinner photograph, every red carpet rollout. The Carters were braided into that administration like family. So when the same man who appointed this judicial officer is on record as one of the defendant's most enthusiastic personal allies, the optics aren't merely poor. The optics are radioactive. Now, I already foresee the contrarian sprinting into my replies, fingers blazing, typing things like, "Oh, but he recused himself from the Combs matter. He stepped aside. He removed his name. You don't know what you're discussing. Blah and more blah." And to that battalion of armchair attorneys, please take several seats. The recusal on the Combs file proves absolutely nothing because nobody on this entire planet ever claimed that this jurist was strategically positioned to insulate Sean Combs. Combs was never the asset. Combs was the warm-up act. Combs was the appetizer. The protected entity, the crown jewel inside this entire operation, has always been the Brooklyn billionaire. And the documented evidence is right there in the public archive, glowing in neon. Pull up the 2016 case docket. The same jurist sat on a previous Carter-related matter without lifting a single eyebrow about conflicts. No recusal, no stepping aside, no principled objection. He simply rolled up his sleeves and presided. So spare me the bedtime story that this judicial officer is some neutral arbiter floating in some pristine vacuum, untouched by industry favoritism. The receipts disprove the fairy tale before the next syllable leaves your mouth. And while the dot connectors are warming up their highlighters, here's another stitch in this quilt that absolutely deserves the spotlight. The defendant's wife, the global pop icon herself, performs under an alternate persona christened Sasha Fierce. Sasha. And the 44th Commander-in-Chief raised a daughter named Sasha. Same name, same era, same orbit. Yet word on every available curb is that the younger Sasha barely tolerates her father, while her older sibling has reportedly drifted toward Republican politics and even floated swapping her surname entirely. Whatever fracture is unfolding behind those former East Wing doors, the kids have made their disapproval extremely loud through their lifestyle choices. And the symmetry between the alter ego Sasha and the West Wing Sasha is honestly just one more pebble in the avalanche of impossible accidents piling up around this filing. And if you genuinely believe that's where the coincidences stop, hip-hop? Oh, sweetheart, you're adorable. Because here's another fragment of evidence that the lazy commentators refuse to address. The defendant's so-called private archive, that flashy temple of memorabilia, that monument to himself parked in a building people are openly calling a library, conveniently sits in the same metropolitan area where the federal courthouse stands. Inside that monument, plastered across one of the walls, is a display dressed up to resemble sacred biblical scripture. Except the verses aren't from Genesis. They aren't from Psalms. They aren't from Revelation. The text printed on those walls is reportedly his own rap lyrics, paraded as gospel, draped in religious aesthetics, accompanied by the unmistakable silhouette of a black cube. The black cube, the same geometric ornament that occult researchers have linked for decades to Saturnian worship, ancient rites, and ceremonial symbolism that has nothing to do with hip-hop and everything to do with the hidden vocabulary of secret societies. You don't ornament a building with that imagery by accident. You don't position rap bars in the place of holy scripture by accident. You don't open a personal cathedral in the very city where your federal trial is about to commence by accident. Every detail is a message. Every layout is a wink. Every coordinate is a calling card. And now, circle back to the Freemasonry whisper that detonated inside my comments earlier this week. According to one commenter, and listen, I'm leaning all the way into the alleged word here because I personally do not carry a square and compass in my pocket. This judicial officer is rumored to be a card-carrying member of that fraternity, and the lore of that fraternity is well documented. One brother is reportedly forbidden from convicting another. So if the jurist and the defendant are operating inside the same secret society infrastructure, why on God's green earth would anybody expect a fair verdict to crawl out of that courtroom? You wouldn't. You can't. The fix would already be baked into the cake before the first witness opens their mouth. And I want to be crystal honest with you, family. I am not the kind of broadcaster who chases shadows for sport. I'm not the kind who screams conspiracy at every cloud formation. But when you have a presiding officer with the surname Carter sitting inside Chamber 444, appointed by the 44th Commander-in-Chief, operating inside the same federal address that just hosted the Combs proceedings, attached to a defendant whose wife performs as Sasha and whose appointer's child carries the same name, and the entire courtroom assignment is rumored to involve fraternal brotherhood loyalties, please explain to me how any rational human being is supposed to swallow the line that this is a neutral, randomized, by-the-book scheduling exercise. You can't. It isn't. It never was. Let's also pause and acknowledge something the corporate media will never breathe a syllable about. The Brooklyn Billionaires catalog itself is built on a foundation that smells suspicious to anybody who's done the homework. Decades of allegations claim he absorbed Biggie's unreleased verses, recycled hooks from collaborators who never received their flowers, and quietly buried songwriters who challenged him for their share of the publishing pie. A man who allegedly constructed his entire discography by helping himself to other people's pens is now sitting under federal scrutiny for allegedly helping himself to other people's bodies. And yet, the same machine that protects the music is now being deployed to protect the man. The pattern is the same. The methodology is the same. The fingerprints are identical. The only thing that changes is the asset being stolen. So now the operational question, the one keeping me wide awake at 3 a.m, is this: what does attorney Coney Busby actually intend to do about it? Because if Busby notices these glaring conflicts and refuses to file a motion demanding judicial reassignment, that silence will tell us absolutely everything we need to know about whether his courage is intact or whether the briefcase has already changed hands behind the scenes. And the moment that motion is missing from the docket, family, the moment that filing fails to appear, we will have our answer. The fight will be over before the first opening statement. The verdict will be predetermined. The receipts will be written in invisible ink. And the defendant will skate. Again, like every other time the system bent its spine for him. Now, I want to be fair to Busby because the man has absorbed bullets that would have crumbled lesser attorneys. His firm has been targeted, his staff has been approached, his clients have been pressured, and word on every reliable curb is that the defendant's lieutenants even attempted to maneuver around his own daughter, which honestly might be the single biggest tactical blunder that camp has ever committed. Because when you escalate a legal dispute into someone's child, you do not buy compliance. You manufacture an enemy with nothing left to lose. Busby has every motivation in the universe to dig his cleats into the dirt and pursue this all the way to the marrow. The receipts are personal now. The grievance is no longer theoretical. So will he take a payoff envelope and slither into early retirement, or will he stand on the very principles he's branded himself around for years? That's the trillion-dollar inquiry, and we're going to discover the answer the very second that judicial reassignment motion either lands on the docket or fails to materialize. And here's another wrinkle that nobody on the major networks has the spine to dissect. We have an entire calendar year before opening statements gavel into session, which means the defendant's machine has roughly 365 days to bend, sculpt, and reshape this entire battlefield to its preferred topography. Witnesses can be cultivated, cooperators can be relocated, counsel can be quietly persuaded, subpoenas can be misplaced, evidence can be reclassified. 365 sunsets is an eternity when the opposition controls the calendar, controls the courtroom, controls the appointing administration, and possibly controls the fraternal allegiances of the jurist holding the gavel. While the chessboard simmers, the surrounding rumor mill is unleashing material so foul that it makes the courtroom geometry look like child's play. Whisper after whisper is bubbling up from sources who claim the defendant has a documented preference for women with disabilities. I want to repeat this carefully because I have absolutely no eyewitness testimony in my personal vault, and I refuse to declare it as locked-in fact, but the chatter is suffocating the timeline right now. Multiple anonymous accounts are insisting that the very first mother of his children allegedly lived with a disability, that the mother of his daughter Rumi allegedly carried significant health complications, and that both of those women have reportedly passed away under circumstances that nobody in the mainstream press wants to investigate. Add to that the well-known suspicions surrounding the global pop icon herself, the surrogacy whispers, the pillow rumors, the rented hospital floor stories, the persistent gossip that she allegedly cannot read fluently, the comments her own mother made in print about specific challenges inside the family, and the picture being painted is not flattering. It's grotesque. And then place that mosaic next to the karmic boomerang theory floating around the alleged predatory behavior toward a minor decades ago, where the defendant himself ended up fathering twin children who reportedly exhibit developmental complications, and the symmetry between his alleged appetites and the outcomes of his own bloodline becomes almost too biblical to absorb. I'm not declaring any of it as gospel. I wasn't in those rooms. I wasn't in those maternity wards. But the alignment is so eerie that even a hardened skeptic should pause and recalibrate. And while we're stacking the receipts, let's never forget the elder daughter who has allegedly been silenced through real estate gifts, the alleged child whose paternity testing has been blocked, delayed, deflected, and ghosted for decades, the persistent rumors that the elder offspring received a house in exchange for retracting her acknowledgments, and the documented attempts by Rymir to obtain ancestry testing that mysteriously evaporated the second the defendant's machine got involved. None of this happens organically, none of this happens by chance. Patterns this consistent require coordination. Coordination requires power. Power requires a network, and the network, the very network we've been documenting on this channel for years, is precisely the same network that just slotted this entire courtroom assignment into Chamber 444. And before the comment section detonates, yes, I see you. The loyalists are already typing, oh, you're reaching, you're paranoid, you're spreading nonsense. To that crowd, I extend the gentlest possible reminder. Witnesses connected to the Combs proceeding allegedly perished before they could finish testifying. Jurors connected to that same case were allegedly approached, allegedly influenced, allegedly pressured. So before this Jane Doe matter even reaches a courtroom calendar, the question is no longer whether she's safe. The question is whether anyone connected to her can survive the next 12 months without round-the-clock private protection. Because if the playbook from the Combs file repeats itself, witnesses will vanish, jurors will be cultivated, exhibits will be misplaced, and the verdict will be tucked into a tidy little bow before anybody on the outside even realizes the game is over. And listen, the smartest defensive move Busbee could make right now, beyond demanding judicial reassignment, is petitioning to import jurors from an entirely different state. Because if the defendant is from this city, raised in this borough, celebrated in this metropolis, and worshipped by half the residents within driving distance, you simply cannot impanel impartial deliberators from the local population. Every potential juror has either taken a selfie with him, danced to his catalog at a wedding, attended one of his concerts, or knows somebody who has. Local sourcing is a gift-wrapped advantage handed straight to the defense. Out-of-state jurors are the only meaningful counterweight, and if Busbee fails to fight for that procedural lever, that's another flashing neon sign that the fix is already in. So now, with all of that said, I need to hear from you. Sound off in the comments section. Lay out your honest take on this courtroom geometry. The surname overlap, the chamber digits, the fully square placement, the appointer's identity, the Sasha mirror, the brotherhood whisper, the disability allegations, the surrogate suspicions, the silenced daughters, the paternity stonewalls, and every other thread we just tugged on. Tell me whether you believe Busbee files that reassignment motion, whether he accepts an envelope, whether bodies start dropping, or whether the entire production explodes the way nobody upstairs is bracing for. And if you stuck with me all the way to this corner of the video, sincerely from the bottom of my chest, thank you. The day ones, the day twos, the day threes, the day fours, you keep this channel breathing, and I will never, ever take that for granted. Drop the like, slap the subscribe, ring that bell, and share this everywhere your fingers can reach. Because the algorithm is doing everything it can to bury truth tellers, and your engagement is the only weapon we have. And if you want to see the receipts on how the silenced eldest daughter situation ties straight back to the defendant's alleged pattern of paying off mothers, blocking DNA tests, and intimidating witnesses across multiple decades, you absolutely have to watch the suggested clip popping up on your screen right now. It connects threads that I did not have time to weave into this breakdown. And once you see those threads sewn together, the entire 444 picture clicks into place with a sound you will not forget. So tap the suggested video, lock in, stay sharp, and keep your eyes peeled because this courtroom is about to become the most surveilled chamber in American history. And we are going to dissect every single second of it together, frame by frame, gavel by gavel, until the truth either breaks free or buries itself. Talk soon, family. Stay safe, watch your circle, protect your peace, and never, ever stop counting the numbers.